So here we are at another Lent, right? One of the things that I've struggled with as we approach this Lent is a couple of things. One is that the weather is just fantastic, right? So that's one thing. It always seems a little easier to get into Lent if it's like cold and overcast and raining. Seems a little bit more Lenten, but it's been just amazing today. The other aspect is, as we enter Lent, we're often thinking of this 40-day window of time where we really cut to the bone and try and keep things simple. And it's this sense of an austere period of time, of penitence, of discipline, of spiritual disciplines. All of this is this season. But this year, there's a big piece of me that feels like that's what we've been doing for the last 10 months. I feel like we've had 10 months of Lent. And now that we're starting Lent, I'm just not quite into it the way I usually am. I don't know if that's part of my confession for a little bit later in the service here. But I think one of the things that we should remember when we think of Lent is that not all of the pieces that go into it are necessarily the pieces that need to go into it. One of the big discussions amongst clergy and worship leaders and church staffs over the last couple of months has been, do you have ashes on Ash Wednesday? Now that's our custom here at Grace, but we took to heart medical input that suggested that poking other people's faces near their eyes with our fingers was not advisable. And so we held off on that. Ashes are not considered essential for Ash Wednesday. Seems a little strange, but true. But if you'll recall the words that we say when we impose the ashes, it doesn't say, remember that you are ash, and to ashes you shall return. The words that we say are, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. It's a reminder for us of those very beginning chapters in Genesis, where we hear that God creates humankind from the dust of the ground, the dirt. And in fact, the Adam that is created is a being of the ground, a being of the ground, earth, soil, dust, dirt. All of these, along with ashes, remind us of our mortality. And you'll notice my modest little pot here on the altar. Hopefully some of you as well have gathered some dirt as we think of Lent in this season. It is a time where our lives should be a little simpler. A little simpler. As a Protestant, I don't generally think of things that we give up for Lent, so to speak. I think of maybe a discipline that we might add for Lent, possibly. Some healthy discipline for our bodies, our hearts, our souls, our relationship with God. Something that over a 40-day arc that is something that is reasonable for us to dive into and engage in. During this season as a congregation, like many churches in many generations, we have a focus on hunger. ELCA World Hunger is an important partner with us in caring for those who are hungry in the world, and I would encourage you to read through the emails on Wednesdays as they come through during this season as we talk about hunger. But I want to step back to this idea that we've already been in Lent for 10, 11 months now, right? It just keeps on going. Having Pastor Friederike on staff has exposed me a little bit to the German church's practice, and it's interesting to me that this season in Germany is referred to as Fastenzeit, which is fasting time. So it's a time of giving up something, and that's usually in English how we understand the word Lent. Lent pops into our mind. It means fasting. It means that our Catholic neighbors have fish on Fridays. There's all kinds of things that kind of pop into our heads as far as what this season means. But I think this is the year when in English we need to grab the root of that word Lent. Lent is an English word. It's not a Latin word. It's not a German word or a Norwegian or Spanish. It's an Old English word. It's an Old English word, not for pain or fasting or giving things up or when is this season going to be over. That's not what the word means. It's an Old English word that means spring. It means spring. I'm mindful of a resource that I read several years ago now about this season, and that it said that this season should be austere, simple, plain, but not necessarily connoting a lack of joy. I think as we move through these 40 days this year, as we move through these 40 days towards Easter, I would encourage you to plant seeds of flowers in your soil, to be mindful that this is a season where we see buds on trees, we see flowers starting to bloom, we see new life and color and hope all around us. This is the Lent, I think, where every day we should wake up and say, Easter is coming. When you see new leaves on that tree on your regular walk, think Easter is coming. When you see flowers in your yard start to bloom in these days, think Easter is coming. It is spring. Easter is coming. There is hope and new life in this year. Amen.